these and we prepare them, we plate them, and then we present them. A good chef will give you a well-balanced meal.
That's right.
But we know how picky some folk can be when it comes to eating. Amen. But we don't take it lightly because you just can't trust everybody's cooking. Amen. For those of you that have the Bibles, I ain't gonna be long. Just give me about 3 hours. Good to go.
3 hours.
3 hours.
Jesus.
Amen. Let's go to the book of St. Mark, Gospel of St. Mark, chapter 10. Chapter 10. And I truly give honor to my wife, my family. Amen. And Minister Hargett, we give honor to you, sir. And to all of you who are out here that make up this wonderful congregation. Amen. St. Mark, chapter 10, beginning at verse 46. 3 hours. 3 hours.
That's all right. That's all right.
St. Mark 46, chapter 10, verse 46. Amen. Amen. The Bible says that they came to Jericho, and as he went out of Jericho with his disciples and a great number of people, a blind Bartimaeus, the son of Timaeus, sat by the highway side begging. And when he heard that it was Jesus of Nazareth, he began to cry out and say, Jesus, thou son of David, have mercy on me. And many charged him that he should hold his peace, but he cried the more a great deal. Thou son of David, have mercy on me. Verse 49 says, and Jesus stood still and commanded him to be called. And they called the blind man, saying unto him, be of good comfort. Rise, he calleth thee. And he, casting away his garment, rose and came to Jesus. And Jesus answered and said unto him, what wilt thou that I should do unto thee? The blind man said unto him, Lord, that I might receive my sight. And Jesus said unto him, go thy way. Thy faith hath made thee whole. And immediately he received his sight and followed Jesus in the way. For time as I want to preach to you from a simple topic. I'm determined for change. Determined for change. It was in 1903 that a man by the name of James Allen published a book entitled As a Man Thinketh. In it, he argues that the key to mastering your life is by harnessing the power of your thoughts. He says in this essay that to have power over your thoughts is to have power over your life.
All right.
He states that the mind is like a garden that can either be cultivated or neglected. But either way, it must and will produce. He further suggests that just as character is manifest and discovered through environment and circumstance, that the outer condition of one's life is always related to and in harmony with the inner state. In other words, the outer condition, or rather the results of your life, is determined by your behavior. Your behavior is driven by your attitude.
All right.
Your attitude is shaped by your thoughts. So if you're not satisfied with the results you're getting, then all you simply have to do is check your thoughts.
Amen.
One of the things that I've learned about life is that it's not really so much what you go through, but how you respond to what you go through.
All right.
And how you respond to what you go through is based on how you think when you're going through. So that if you set your thoughts on things above, even when you're at a very low place, you can think your way above anything that you're going through.
Amen. Amen.
This is the reason why you can be broken but still know that you're blessed.
Yes,
This is the reason why you can be going through what seems to be the worst ever and still have joy. This is the reason why you can be perplexed and never in despair, because just because you're going through doesn't mean that you're through.
That's right.
The Bible tells us that the woman had an issue of blood for 12 long years, and eventually she was made whole. But her healing didn't start with her action of touching Jesus' hem. Her healing began with the thought, because the text says she thought to herself that if she would touch the hem of his garment, that she would be healed. So no matter what you're going through, no matter how bad it may look, don't ever allow yourself to think that it won't change.
All right. All right.
In fact, one of the ways that the enemy will attack you is through your mind.
All right.
He attacks you, watch this, he goes after your mind by going through your feelings. So that if he can persuade how you feel, then he can control how you think. And if he can control how you think, then he controls your life. That's why you have to be careful how you feel when you're going through situations.
That's right.
Because feelings are a product of your flesh.
All right.
But faith is not. And faith says that regardless of what I'm going through, I'm going to trust the Lord.
That's
That
right.
regardless of how bad it may look, I'm
That's right.
still going to give God praise in the
That's
midst
right.
of it all.
That's right.
I can appreciate David when he opens up Psalm 30. He says, I will extol thee, O Lord. That word extol means to lift up. He says that I will lift the Lord. But he says, I will. And in the Hebrew, the words I will is actually one word that means to think, deeply meditate, and then to resolve. So when David says, I will lift the Lord, he's saying that I have thought about it, deeply meditated, and I've made up my mind that no matter what I'm going through, I'm going to lift the Lord. So when David says, I will, what he does is he closes the door on every external influence. When he says, I will, he closes the door on every internal inclination so that no matter what he's going through, no matter how he's feeling, he's thought about the fact that he's going to lift the Lord no matter what he's going through. And I believe I got some saints in the house that can say, when I think about the goodness of God and everything that he's done for me, I can serve and praise him because it doesn't really matter what I'm going through.
That's
I can
right.
be going through all
Amen.
kinds of stuff, but I'm going to thank the Lord because when I look back over how he delivered me, when I think about how he saved me, when I think about how he made a way out of nowhere, when I think about how he lifted me, I will lift the Lord.
Thank you, Lord.
Yes.
Thank you, Lord.
Thank you, Lord.
Ooh, thank you, Lord.
Maybe you just like the preacher. Sometimes you have moments when you don't want to give God praise. When you
Yeah,
just
that's
feel
right,
like don't
that's
giving
right.
God praise. Because it's easy to praise God when everything's going good.
That's
It's easy to praise God when your money looking right, the family acting right, and everything just going good, and
When
you
you
get
feel
favor on
upset.
every corner. But when you go through stuff that seemingly ain't going the way you want to go, can you still give God praise?
Amen.
Can you still bless him when you ain't got nothing, when it looks like you will never make it out? Can you still give God a blessing and say, Lord, it doesn't matter what's going on, I'm going to praise you, I'm going to serve you, and I refuse to allow what I'm going through to determine how I feel.
Yes, Lord.
All right.
That's exactly what we come to when we get to this particular text. We find a brother, for all intents and purposes, should have been in a place where he should not be feeling like calling on the name of Jesus.
Yes.
Because when you look at this particular gospel, the Gospel of Mark, please understand that it's classified as a synoptic gospel along with Matthew and Luke. In other words, what that means is that these three gospels, Matthew, Mark, and Luke, are very similar in how they were constructed. One of the similarities is that they did not write their gospels in chronological order. Each one of the gospel writers had a particular theme for which they wrote their gospel. And however or whatever the theme was, they would situate the stories in the text that would allow that theme to flow. This is the reason why you can read the same story in each of those three gospels, but they not be in the same sequence.
That's right.
Because whatever the theme was, they would order the gospel in a way that would better allow that theme to unfold. Another similarity of the synoptic gospels is oftentimes they would take a miracle story and place it right after a teaching story. Wasn't necessarily so that that particular miracle happened after that particular teaching, but they would use the miracle story as an application, or rather an illustration of how Jesus walked what he taught.
All right.
When you look at this particular text, right before it is a teaching story where Jesus is teaching his disciples about being servants. He tells them that the leaders of the day like to lord themselves over the people, how they like to exercise their authority. He says, but with you, it will not be so. He says, because what you have to understand is if you're going to make an impact in the kingdom, if you're going to be great in the kingdom, then you have to learn how to be a servant.
All right.
He even goes further to say, I'm not going to tell you anything that I'm not willing to do, because the next verse, in verse 45, he says, even the Son of Man did not come to be served, but rather he came to serve and give his life a ransom for many. And it is right after this story that Mark uses the healing of blind Bartimaeus as an example of Jesus serving somebody.
Yeah.
In other words, Mark uses this story to encourage us that no one is beyond the reach of Jesus.
All right.
That nobody is beyond the reach of the cross.
Amen.
And although he's healed by Jesus by way of his faith, I believe there are some things that we can learn about Bartimaeus as we're determined for change. The first thing I want you to understand is if you're going to be determined for change, you have to cultivate the attitude to not let your hang-up be your hold-up.
All right.
Okay.
All right.
Whenever you look at this first verse, everything about this brother literally puts him at the bottom of the totem pole. Everything in this first verse suggests that he's really an outcast, that he's a nobody. Nobody wants to deal with him. He has, in the first verse, at least about 3-4 good strikes against him. First strike, he's blind. Now please understand, that's not bad. It doesn't make a person bad because they're blind. But understand that society will place stigmas over people. That in that day, whenever they had a disability, they believed that either it had to be something they did or something that the parents had done. So society has already given him this strike because he's blind. And because he's blind, he has to depend on other folk for him to do or get whatever he needs to get. The second strike, he's a beggar. The text says that he's sitting by the highway side begging. Because he's a beggar, it means, watch this, that he has to deal with people who, in order for him to have a good day, have to be nice to him. Because he needs people to bring change into his hand. But he's dealing with people who can't bring change to his life because he's a beggar. That's strike 2. Strike 3, he's sitting by the highway side begging. He's sitting outside of the famous city called Jericho. Now, because Jericho was a walled city with gates, he's sitting outside of the city, which meant that whatever went on in the city, he couldn't be a part of. Anybody had a cookout, he couldn't bring no potato salad. Anybody had a party, he couldn't be the one to do all the crazy dances like Uncle Timbo used to do. Anybody had a Facebook page, everybody would not follow him because nobody wanted to have anything to do with it. If the fellas wanted to get up under the tree and shoot the breeze and tell jokes and lies, he couldn't even be a part of that. We don't even know if the brother has a family, but if he did, he's even isolated from them. Because sitting by the highway side puts him in a position where he sees or whether he understands that everybody else that passes him moves with a purpose. And he has no purpose because he's sitting in one place begging because he's blind. 3 strikes already. That makes him out all day long. But if we could just go ahead and give it one more shot, because the brother is blind, his name is Bartimaeus. Well, that's strike 4 right there. Because when you understand his name, the name Bartimaeus literally means son of Timaeus. The prefix bar, B-A-R, means son of. Timaeus, watch this, is a name that means filthy. It's a name that means impure. So here is a man who, because of who his daddy is attached to a stigma that nobody don't want to deal with, a dirty, no good, low down, impure kind of fella. And these are all of the strikes that this brother has against him. Let me go ahead and encourage you, because just because he done struck out doesn't mean that it's over.
That's
right. In the 6th grade, I had a friend of mine, his name was Jerry, the white kid. I had to throw that out there. But Jerry was a cool cat. He had asked me one time if I would come and spend the weekend with him. My mama was cool with that. Now, you know I had to be on my best behavior because I grew up in the projects. So, you know, if anything was to go missing, it's a little project kid. Okay, so but I had to be on my best behavior. We get over there, had a wonderful time. Jerry had these grand thoughts of wanting to be this Major League Baseball star one day. And he told me, he said, Mike, you need to go ahead and start playing baseball. I said, Jerry, I ain't never played real baseball. He said, what you mean? I said, I'm from the hood. So baseball for us was a broomstick handle. And first base was Pee-wee t-shirt. Second base was a crushed up soda can. And third base, you had to take the heel of your foot and dig a hole. Don't miss it if you miss it, now you're going to be in trouble. And the baseball was actually a tennis ball. That's how we played baseball. So, you know, we didn't have no cleats, no hats and helmets and mittens, none of that. So his daddy said, well, I tell you what, we'll take you to Mike Greenwell's tomorrow, which would have been Saturday. Now, Mike Greenwell was a Major League Baseball player from my hometown. He had a sports complex that taught kids the basics of how to play baseball. So they put me in this batting cage, and I see this machine that spits out all these balls. And my job is to hit the ball. Well, a lot of balls came out, and I'm going to tell you just how many I hit. 0. So I looked at Jerry and I said, Jerry, this is the reason right here why I can't play baseball. Because if I get on the team, all I'm going to do is strike out. Jerry's dad walked over to me. He said, Mike, let me tell you something. He said, it's okay if you strike out. Because what you have to understand about baseball is that if you strike out in inning 1, there's still an inning 2 and a 3 and a 4, all the way to inning number 5. And that blessed my spirit. But let me tell you what else the brother said. He said, don't worry about a strikeout. Because a strikeout simply means that you're off the field. But it means that you still in the game. Let me come get you. There's some folks in here that maybe you got some strikes against you and you felt like people have counted you out. But I came to encourage you that even if you struck out, you still in the game. That even if you strike out, there's still a chance for you to make us get better. There's still a chance for things to turn around for you in your life. Because just because you're off the field don't mean that you're completely off the game. And maybe you just like the preacher, you had some stuff that should have took you off the field, should have took you out the stadium, should have took you out the city, should have took you out the state. But if it had not been for God, still in the game, still in the game. Don't let your hang up be your hold up. Second thing I want you to understand, if you're going to be determined for change, you have to cultivate the attitude that you got to use what you got to get what you need. I can appreciate the text because in verse 47, the text says that he heard that it was Jesus of Nazareth. He began to cry out and say, Jesus, thou son of David, have mercy on me. He was a blind man who heard that Jesus was passing by. And so he shouted, Son of David, have mercy on me. Appreciate it, brother. Because in this particular verse, he's blind. Which means he can't see. But he heard. And he spoke. Because he didn't allow what he didn't have to keep him from getting what he needed. And sometimes you will miss your breakthrough crying over stuff that you ain't got. Crying over stuff or people that done walked away from you. People that said they was going to be there for you and turned their backs on you. And you can't spend a minute worrying about what you ain't got because you got to use your mind to use what you got to get what you need. Because whenever you have a determination, you ain't going to let no excuse stop you from getting what you need. Let me tell y'all a story. There was a lady who right now there's a university named after her. The university is a university now. It used to be a college, then it was a junior college, and before the junior college, it was just a little high school, and before the high school, they only had school in one house, one room in one house. Now, this university would not stand where it is right now in Daytona Beach, Florida. Bethune-Cookman University would not be where it is right now.
I knew he was gonna break
If
that
it
up.
had not been for the faith in $1.50. Mary McLeod Bethune only had $1.50 and some faith. She had 5 students, and they were having school in one room in a house that belonged to other folk. But she used what she had in order to get what she needed. And now the school is established. It's one of the most prestigious HBCUs in the nation. Let me go ahead and rep my school. You know it. You know it. But because she decided not to use excuses, this was a time, watch this, this was in 1904. This was a time when black folks shouldn't have had nothing. This was a time when black women shouldn't have had nothing. But she didn't allow anything to stop her from fulfilling the dream that she had to being educated to get to school and start a school. So here it is. You might not have no money, but you might have education. Use what you got. You ain't got education. Well, you might have be a creative thinker. Use your mind. Use what you got. You might not be a creative thinker, but you the kind of person that can talk to everybody and know how to network and pull people together. Even if you don't know how to network, everybody need a cheerleader. Just be a support staff. Even if you ain't a support staff, you got raw talent. Just use whatever you got. Because if you're determined, you will not allow anything to stop you from coming up short of what you're trying to do.
Hallelujah.
Last thing, and I'm almost done. Told you 3 hours. Almost done.
Work it.
You're going to be determined for change. Don't let your hang up be your hold up. You're going to be determined to change. Don't allow what you don't have to stop you from getting what you need. Use what you got. And the last thing is when you're determined for change, you got to dismiss the crowd. The text says that when he spoke to the people, when he spoke to Jesus, the people said, shut up. That's literally what they said, shut up. The word rebuke in this text means to shut up. And the way they used it was in a sense that means if you say anything else, something's going to go wrong. He was already in a wrong situation.
Right.
But he nevertheless spoke so much the more. When they told him to shut up, he shouted even louder.
There you go.
Because here's the situation. Jesus comes into Jericho, but he didn't catch him till he was on his way out.
All right.
Which means, like the old saints would say, pass me not,
Yes.
oh gentle Savior.
Yeah.
He makes up his mind that here is my chance for me to get my breakthrough.
Yes.
Now all my life, because this is not a brother who had sight before. He's been blind all his life. He's been a beggar all his life. He's been sitting by the wayside all his life. But even in his situation, he thought enough to know that he could still have a change.
Yes.
And he's going to make up his mind that I'm not going to let that opportunity pass me by. So when he says, Jesus, thou son of David, have mercy on me, the folks tell him to be quiet. Because at this particular point, I thought for real that the people was just hating on the brother, but you can't be hating on nobody who ain't got nothing really. But the reality of the situation was, they told him to shut up because Jesus was a rabbi. It was improper for him to call and holler out to him on the way. He was a teacher, you was a beggar, he was somebody, you were nobody. But remember, the text that Mark uses is an illustration of who Jesus came to serve.
Yes.
So Jesus stops because he says, hold up, that's my child,
Yes.
and I hear him crying out for me.
That's right.
And the cry that he gives is the
All right.
son of David. Don't miss it.
Uh-huh.
They said, what's going on? They said, Jesus of Nazareth. He said,
Said.
Jesus, thou son of David.
All right. Uh-huh.
That don't make no sense.
All right.
Jesus of Nazareth, Jesus, thou son of David. Now here's the issue. These people heard of Jesus. They were following Jesus. They saw Jesus. And because they called him Jesus of Nazareth, they were attaching him to where he was from.
All right.
They were attaching him to what he could do. Because they knew that he was the one that's been performing all these miracles.
Right.
So when they said Jesus, son of Nazareth, they were saying, here is the man who has the power that's been healing folk. That it points to what he does. But when Bartimaeus, who had no sight, says, Jesus, thou son of David,
All right.
he's not pointing to what he does, he's pointing to who he is. Let me come on and get you. See, when you understand that you have to watch this, if you ever want the hand of God, you got to seek after the heart of God. Because we have too many folk in the church who want a hand, but don't nobody really know who Jesus really is. We come in the church and we praise, Lord, thank you, and that's really your testimony because you just want him to pay a bill. You want him to get you out of this situation. You want him to straighten out your kids. But when you know who God really is, if you seek his heart, you will automatically get his hand. So when Bartimaeus says, Jesus, thou son of David, he says, hold on, Doc. I know what you can do, but I know who you are because the son of David was the promised king who was supposed to be coming to save them. And oh my God.
All right.
And he said, Jesus, thou son of David.
Uh-huh.
I appreciate this because what you don't know
All right.
is that when he was begging these people for change, he begged them with the same intensity that he's now calling out for Jesus.
All right.
He begged them with the same intensity so that he was calling out and needing resources. But now he's calling out for the source.
That's right.
Maybe that's somebody's story in here. Maybe you need a resource, but I'm going to tell you, you just need to call for the source. Because if you get the source, then the resource is going to follow. Because all the days of your life, goodness and mercy shall follow you whenever you are a sheep in the fold of the Lord. Because when you understand that he's your shepherd, you don't have to want for anything. Don't ask for the need. Just go ahead and get the shepherd because you won't have to want for nothing.
Hallelujah.
Right.
Yes.
Thank the Lord.
We were in Hawkinsville and we had stopped by the church for something. And stopped by the church. It was me, a good friend of mine. He had his niece and nephew with him. And we stopped by the church. And I didn't know that the brother had a key to the church, right? So we get to the church door and it was locked. And I'm sitting up here like, how we gonna get in? And little nephew looks at me and he said, well, don't worry, because my uncle has the key. You have to understand that when it comes to God, he has the key for your breakthrough.
Yes.
He has the key for everything that you need in life.
Yes.
Whenever you come to a place that you are determined for change, trust and believe he's already waiting on you.
Yes.
Because don't think this was a coincidence that he caught this brother on his way going out of the city. Because this was the last time that he would be making this journey. He was on his way to Jerusalem for the Passover. And right after the Passover, he was going to be crucified. So he lets his disciples know, hey, hold up, doc. If you're going to be important in my kingdom, it ain't about where you sit. It's about who you serve.
Yes.
He lets us know in this text, under no uncertain terms, that I serve those, watch this, who need me.
Yeah.
I serve those who call for me.
Yes.
And I serve those who everybody else have dismissed and everybody else have counted out. But I am the God
Yes.
that can restore you to your proper
Yes.
position.
Yes.
I am the God who can renew everything in your life, no matter what you're going through, no matter how bad it may look. I am the God that has the power
Yes.
to change it.
Yes.
If he had power before he died and rose with all power in his hand, then you got to know that there's nothing that God can't do in your life.
Yes.
Because the God we serve is able to do exceedingly and abundantly above everything that we ever
Yes.
ask or think. And all you have to do
Right.
is just want to change.
That's right.
Yes.
That's right.
Because far too many times we get in a position where we say, you know, we're just going to lay it down. We're just going to be the same. It's going to be what it's going to be. This man really should never have thought that his life would ever change. He had been this way for so long.
Yeah.
For so long. Even the woman with the issue of blood, she had that issue for 12 years. Technically, she should not have even had the thought that she would be all right.
Yeah.
But she still thought to herself, if I could just touch the hem of his garment.
Yes.
This brother already had a thought. He was in the situation, but the situation wasn't him. You have to understand that even in life, no matter what we go through, that we can think our way above every situation, and all we have to do is just be determined for the change.
Yes.
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 Amen.
Thank you, Lord.
Praise the Lord.
Amen. Praise God. What a word. What a word
Yes.
from the Lord. Amen. Truly, amen. We heard
Hallelujah.
from the Lord. Amen.
Yes.
Amen. This is, amen, worth getting up on Sunday morning.
Yes.
Amen. Hallelujah. Amen.
Hallelujah.
Amen. As bad as sometimes, amen, you know that we want to stay in that bed. Amen. But amen. This is worth getting up on Sunday morning.
Amen. Amen.
Praise God. Amen. Amen. I want to ask you a question. Amen. I think this, amen, just kind of go along with this service on today. Amen.